Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Mickle. It's a done deal. The Senate has voted to pass a measure raising the debt ceiling after a House vote last night. The deal raises the debt ceiling through the next year and calls for $2.4 trillion in deficit reduction over the next 10 years. 74 senators voted in favor of the deal. 60 of the 100 were needed for it to pass. The president signed the measure today. If a deal had not been reached, the government would have gone into default.
Everyone's going to have to chip in. That's only fair. That's the principle I'll be fighting for during the next phase of this process. And in the coming months, I'll continue also to fight for what the American people care most about.
The worst-case scenario of a national default appears to have been averted, but other consequences could be looming, and they could impact you. Tambry Lane has more.
News of a deal to raise the nation's debt ceiling was met with relief by everyone from senior citizens concerned about Social Security checks to students worried about interest rates on loans. But avoiding default might not be enough to avoid another D word you might have heard: downgrade. That's a dent in the U.S. credit rating, sort of like your credit score, determined by a handful of agencies looking at borrowing, spending, and paying the bills, and an indication of a worthy borrower. The U.S. has had a AAA, the highest level since anyone started keeping track. So how would a downgrade affect you? A lower credit rating would make it more expensive for the U.S. to borrow money, and rising interest rates could be passed along to you. It could also make other countries nervous about the U.S. economy, and if they lose faith in the U.S. dollar, the things people import will get more expensive, from the gas tank to the grocery store to the mall. It's also a good lesson for anyone managing credit in their own household, keeping bills on budget and under control to avoid penalties. I'm Tambry Lane reporting.
A surprise appearance during yesterday's House vote. Congresswoman Gabby Giffords came to vote in favor of the debt deal. Giffords says she felt compelled to make the trip. She said in a statement, quote, "I could not take the chance that my absence could crash our economy." Giffords' welcome lasted nearly 4 minutes. Even the speaker was moved by her appearance, giving her a kiss on the cheek. You'll remember Giffords was shot in the head during an appearance last January. 6 others were killed in that attack. A New Hampshire girl missing for a week has been found, and the news is bad.
We have brought Selena home. Not the way we wanted to bring her home, but thank you for everything.
The girl's body was found yesterday in the Connecticut River. She had been missing since last Monday night. Authorities are treating her death as suspicious. They'll know more after an autopsy is done. Well, if you're having ground turkey for dinner, listen up. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is blaming ground turkey for a recent salmonella outbreak. One person has died, 76 others are sick in 26 states, and the outbreak connected to people eating ground turkey. The most common symptoms are diarrhea, abdominal cramps, and fever within 8 to 72 hours. The USDA is still trying to track down the source of the sickening meat. So far, no recalls are being issued. You are encouraged to cook ground turkey to an internal temperature of 165 degrees to ensure its safety. Later, we'll tell you about a salmonella recall involving your cats. Well, the dome of hot air is back across much of the country, creating some very dangerous conditions. In parts of Texas, people have been sweating through triple-digit temperatures for 30 days straight. It's not over yet. To really understand this oppressive heat, you have to endure it, like these high school football players practicing up to 4 hours a day.
Now it says 99.
Is it?
How hot does it feel?
109. 999.
199?
Meanwhile, much of the southern U.S. continues to suffer drought conditions. A new report says nearly 12% of the country struggled with an exceptional drought last month. That's the highest percentage recorded since monitoring began 12 years ago. Dry weather has been pervasive throughout the South, especially in Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. Drivers in the U.S. need to be extra cautious over the next few weeks. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says August is the deadliest on the road. The agency says the odds of getting into a deadly crash are higher in August because more people are driving. September is the second deadliest month for drivers. March is the safest month. As for days of the week, Saturdays have the most fatalities, while Tuesdays have the least. Time for Global News Now. Heavy rains triggered by a tropical storm have flooded 14 provinces in Thailand's north and northeast. One flood-related death is being reported. Sections of roads are washed away. Many villagers were forced to leave their homes and move their belongings to higher ground. Cancer-ridden Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez unveiled his new look to the public. The socialist leader appeared on state television with a shaved head. Chavez told his audience that effective chemotherapy treatment was making his hair fall out. In June, Chavez said doctors had removed a malignant tumor from his body. He has not shared what type of cancer he has. Japan is in for more nuclear problems. Radiation at the Fukushima facility is now registering at its highest level since days after the March earthquake and tsunami. A single 60-minute dose would be fatal to humans within weeks. Investigators are trying to figure out the source of the radiation found at the bottom of a ventilation tower. Tokyo Electric Power Company projects the situation won't be fully over until sometime between October and January. And that's your Global News Now. Up next, a couple of recalls to warn you about affecting your truck and your cat. Plus a warning for all you data hogs why things are going to slow down for some of you. And the tooth fairy isn't giving as much these days. How the poor economy is affecting her. Next on INN. And we want to remind you, INN News is on Facebook. Now you can also find us on Twitter at INN News Network. And we're on YouTube. We're reaching out to you so you can reach out to us. INN News will be right back.